There are truths about being chosen that few dare to whisper, because they hurt too much to say out loud. The journey doesn't begin with miracles or applause. It begins with silence, with loss, with that unexplainable ache that no one around you seems to understand. You weren't cursed. You were being called. While others celebrated beginnings, you were buried in endings. But what looked like death was only a sacred rebirth disguised as pain. You see, heaven never crowns a soul before breaking it. The breaking is the initiation. The storm is the signal. Every night you cried yourself to sleep thinking you were forgotten, heaven was carving symbols into your spirit that only light could later translate. You thought you were losing everything, but you were only shedding what couldn't survive your next dimension. The chosen are not born ready. They are forged, in loneliness, in confusion, in the kind of fire that doesn't destroy, but refines. That's why so many never make it, because the path of destiny begins where comfort ends. It's not meant to feel safe. It's meant to awaken something ancient within you. The warrior, the healer, the messenger who remembers who they are. And if these words resonate, it's not coincidence. It's confirmation. Something deep within you remembers the contract your soul signed long before this lifetime. The agreement to endure, to rise, to carry light into dark places. That's why the pain came first. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Tonight, we'll unveil what truly happens behind the veil. The 5 invisible trials that every chosen soul must walk through, often without even realizing it. 5 moments that shape you, test you, and ultimately reveal why you were marked by heaven itself. Stay with me, because when we reach number 3, you'll understand why your tears were sacred offerings, not signs of weakness. If your spirit feels this truth vibrating inside you, pause for a second. Breathe. You're not alone. There are thousands of other chosen ones waking up right now, just like you. Like this video to strengthen the signal. Subscribe if your soul knows it's time to remember. And comment 99 below, because in the language of the spirit, 99 means completion before rebirth. Something old in you has just ended, and something divine is about to begin. Trial 1. The collapse of illusions. It always begins with a fall. Not a stumble, not a small inconvenience, but a collapse so deep it shakes the ground beneath your spirit. Suddenly, everything you trusted begins to dissolve. The people who once called you family drift away. The plans you built so carefully scatter like dust in the wind. You stand there, surrounded by fragments of a life that no longer fits, asking the same question every soul asks in the dark night. What did I do wrong? But the truth is, you did nothing wrong. This is not punishment. It's purification. Heaven dismantles before it delivers. What you see as chaos is actually a sacred architecture being rewritten. The structures that once kept you safe have become too small for who you're becoming. The friendships that used to make sense suddenly feel hollow. The goals you once chased no longer ignite your heart. It's not confusion, it's transformation. The universe doesn't ask permission when it's time to upgrade your destiny. It breaks what cannot follow you into the next chapter, and it hurts. Because the human part of you mourns what the divine part of you has already outgrown. You try to hold on, but the harder you grip, the faster it slips away. That's the paradox of awakening. What once felt solid now burns like paper in your hands. You're not being destroyed. You're being set free. You're being stripped of illusions so that what's real can finally be revealed. Think of this phase as a sacred wildfire. Every false attachment, every outdated identity, every mask you wore to survive, all must burn. The fire is intelligent. It knows what to consume and what to preserve. You are the forest being reborn. The flames may look violent, but they're clearing space for new life. What feels like loss is actually liberation. You are not losing stability. You are shedding illusion. That job that once defined you. It was a golden cage. That relationship that made you feel seen. It was a mirror of your emptiness. That routine that gave you comfort. It was a lullaby that kept you asleep. Now, heaven is shaking you awake. Every door that closes is not rejection, it's redirection. Every ending is not punishment, it's prophecy unfolding. And yet many fail here. They run back to rebuild what heaven already dismantled. They glue the broken pieces of an expired life together and wonder why it still feels hollow. But those who are truly chosen understand. You cannot rebuild what God has burned down. You can only rise from the ashes, so don't rush to escape the fire. Stay inside it. Let it rewrite your definition of peace, love, and truth. Because the fire that feels like it's consuming you is actually consuming everything that isn't you. Listen closely. This collapse is sacred surgery. Heaven is cutting away the false so the authentic can breathe. You are not being punished, you're being purified. And one day soon, you'll look back and realize the storm wasn't destroying your life. It was revealing your wings. But the test isn't over. Once the fire ends and the ashes settle, a deeper silence follows. You'll search for familiar faces and find none. You'll reach for the world you once knew and realize it no longer exists. That's when the next trial begins. The second trial, where silence becomes your only teacher. Trial 2, the sacred loneliness. And then, the noise fades. The world goes quiet in a way you've never experienced before. People still surround you, but their words no longer land. Their laughter feels distant. Their conversations echo like whispers from a reality you no longer belong to. You look around and realize you've outgrown the frequency of your old life. It's as if heaven has pulled a veil between you and everything that once felt familiar. This is the second trial, the sacred loneliness. It's not punishment. It's separation for elevation. The universe doesn't isolate you to break you. It isolates you to prepare you. The noise of the world would drown out the whisper of God, and so the divine removes distractions one by one. The messages stop. The invitations fade. The energy around you changes. And at first, it feels unbearable. You start asking yourself, why is everyone disappearing? But the truth is, they're not leaving you. They're being removed from your frequency. Heaven is tuning you to a higher wavelength, and not everyone can breathe at that altitude. This is where the real refinement begins. In the silence, no one sees. The applause stops. The validation disappears. No one understands your vision anymore, not because it's wrong, but because it's too early. You are living in a timeline that hasn't caught up yet. The seed inside you is still underground, unseen but already alive. You'll wake up one morning and feel a deep ache, not in your body, but in your soul. It's the ache of being in between worlds, no longer who you were, not yet who you're becoming. You scroll through the lives of others and wonder, why does everyone else seem so connected, so loved, so sure? But that's the illusion. The sacred ones are never understood during transformation. You are being hidden, not forgotten. You are being prepared, not rejected. In this solitude, something begins to happen. Slowly, your perception shifts. You start hearing the sound of your own breath and realizing it's divine. You start feeling the beat of your heart and knowing it's aligned with something greater. You begin to see that you were never alone. You were just surrounded by the wrong noise, and that's when revelation dawns. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It's the presence of power. This is the stage where your inner voice becomes louder than the opinions of the world. You start to recognize your own energy. You feel ideas coming out of nowhere, wisdom flowing without teachers, guidance appearing without intermediaries. Heaven begins to speak directly to you because now, for the first time, you're quiet enough to listen. But here's the paradox. The silence that heals you can also tempt you. The human part of you wants to run back to noise, to distraction, to the illusion of belonging. You crave connection, but what you truly need is communion. Don't fill the sacred silence with chaos just because you're afraid of hearing yourself think. The loneliness isn't a void, it's a womb. You are not being starved of connection. You are being nourished by stillness. Think of prophets, saints, visionaries. Every great soul had to vanish before being revealed. Moses went to the mountain alone. Elijah hid in the cave. Even Christ withdrew to the wilderness before his mission began. Isolation is initiation. The desert always precedes destiny. This is where your roots deepen invisibly. You learn self-validation. You discover peace in your own presence. You start creating not for applause, but from authenticity. You stop seeking mirrors because now you are the mirror. The loneliness that once terrified you becomes your teacher, your sanctuary, your cathedral. And as you sit in that sacred silence, something shifts. A light begins to flicker inside you. Small at first, but undeniable. It's the glow of self-awareness, the first spark of divine identity. The world may not see it yet, but heaven does. You've crossed into a new vibration, one that cannot be faked or forced, but be warned. This peace is fragile at first. The universe will soon test whether your solitude has made you strong or merely quiet. Because after the silence comes the most deceptive trial of all, the one that makes even the strongest cry. Trial 3. The temptation to return. This is where most fall. This is where faith meets its fiercest test, not in the storm, but in the calm that follows it. After surviving the chaos, after enduring the silence, something familiar begins to knock at your door. Softly at first, gently, almost lovingly. It doesn't come with horns or warnings. It comes wrapped in comfort, nostalgia, and the illusion of safety. The ex suddenly texts you, saying they've changed. The old job calls, promising better pay. The same friends who once disappeared invite you out again. It feels like peace. But it's not. It's a test dressed as mercy. The universe has a strange way of verifying your growth. Once you level up, it will send you back the same scenarios to see if you still respond the same way. This is not punishment, it's proof. Proof of whether your transformation was real or just temporary. Heaven asks quietly, will you go back to what broke you, simply because it feels familiar? And here's the truth that makes this trial so painful. The things returning are not evil. They're seductive because they once brought comfort, love, stability. But now they belong to an older version of you, a version that no longer exists. When you try to fit into your past, it's like wearing clothes that no longer fit your spirit. You can force them on, but you can't breathe. The enemy of destiny isn't always darkness. Sometimes it's familiarity. Familiar patterns, familiar faces, familiar emotions. They whisper nothing has to change. You can still grow and keep us too. But the chosen ones know. You can't carry yesterday into tomorrow. You can't walk into divine purpose holding hands with your past. The moment you say yes to your old life, you silently say no to your new one. And it hurts. It hurts because this test doesn't just touch your mind, it pierces your heart. You'll cry not because you're weak, but because you must release what you once prayed for. You'll feel torn between what once made you feel safe and what now calls you to walk by faith. This is where heaven watches in silence, not to see if you'll choose right, but to see if you've learned to trust the unseen. You'll notice something peculiar. When you consider going back, your spirit will feel heavy. The energy will shift. It will feel like trying to breathe underwater. That discomfort is your confirmation. Heaven is warning you that the old frequency can no longer hold your soul. You've changed too much. You've outgrown the vibration of who you were. What returns never comes the same. The ex who claims to have changed still carries the same patterns. The old job that looks stable will still drain your essence. The old circle that seems welcoming will still keep you small. It's all recycled energy wrapped in prettier paper, and the universe is watching to see if you'll unwrap it again. This is why so many chosen ones cry in this phase. Not from sadness, but from the weight of realization. To evolve, you must disappoint your past. You must break the heart of your old self to honor the calling of your new one. You must mourn what you've outgrown, even when it still feels like home. This is sacred pain, the pain of metamorphosis. The caterpillar doesn't mourn the leaves when it learns to fly. You're not losing comfort. You're gaining wings, but the moment you turn back, you trade your flight for the illusion of safety. Listen, every time you reject what's familiar but no longer aligned, a gate opens in the invisible. Each no you whisper to your past is a yes, heaven records for your future. Every tear you shed here waters the ground of your next miracle. So before you look back, remember, Orpheus lost his love the moment he turned around. Lot's wife turned to salt for longing after a life that no longer existed. And many souls today freeze in that same moment, unable to move forward because they couldn't let go. The chosen don't just walk away from their past, they bury it. They burn the bridges that lead backward, knowing the fire that closes one path will light the next. And as you stand at this crossroads, trembling between memory and destiny, the universe whispers one last question. Will you choose what's comfortable or what's calling? Because right after this, after the tears, the ache, the silence, comes the next trial. The most invisible one, the one that tests your faith when there's no sign, no noise, no confirmation at all. Trial 4, the invisible years. This is the quietest season. The one that feels endless. The one where heaven stops answering, not because it abandoned you, but because it's already spoken. You keep praying, working, hoping, yet nothing seems to move. No doors open. No signs appear. The world goes silent, and you start wondering if you somehow missed your moment. But here's the truth most people never realize. The silence is not absence, it's incubation. This is the cocoon phase. The stage where everything looks still on the outside, but inside something divine is rearranging every particle of your existence. You are not being ignored. You are being rewired. Heaven is synchronizing timelines, positioning people, adjusting energy fields, aligning everything to meet you at the exact frequency of your next chapter. But the human mind, impatient by nature, confuses stillness with stagnation. And that's where faith is truly tested. Because in this stage, you will look around and see others advancing, celebrating, shining, while you sit in obscurity, building something no one can yet see. You'll feel invisible, but invisibility is heaven's way of protecting premature greatness. If people could see what's forming in you right now, they'd try to label it, limit it, or steal it. So the divine hides you until you are too strong to be broken. You wake up each day and do the work. You pray when no one's watching. You keep showing up even when no one claps. You pour your heart into visions that haven't yet manifested. And that's when the whispers start. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe it's never going to happen. But those whispers aren't from heaven. They're from fear. Because fear always gets loudest right before breakthrough. Let me tell you something sacred. The silence of God is never empty. It's full of construction. Behind the quiet curtain, angels are negotiating on your behalf. Your name is being mentioned in rooms you haven't entered, by mouths you've never met. Someone, somewhere, is being prepared to open a door for you, without even knowing why. The alignment is in progress, and silence is the sound of heaven building. Still, this trial can break even the strong. You'll be tempted to prove your worth, to rush the process, to make noise just to feel seen again. But don't. You're not meant to be visible yet. Visibility before maturity destroys purpose. When a seed is planted, it disappears beneath the soil. From above, it looks like death. But under the surface, the miracle has already begun. Roots are forming where no one can see. If you dig it up too early just to check its progress, you kill it. The same law applies to your destiny. So stop comparing your timeline to others. You're not late, you're being timed. The universe is weaving your manifestation into divine perfection. Every delay is protection. Every closed door is choreography. Every quiet night is sacred construction. You are not stuck. You're being stationed. But yes, it's lonely here. The world doesn't celebrate unseen faith. There's no applause for consistency in silence. Yet that's where the most powerful souls are born. In the shadows, away from recognition, where intention gets purified and ego dies. What the world can't see is what heaven treasures most. The soul that keeps walking even when it can't see the road. And just when your faith begins to thin, when you start whispering, "God, did you forget me?" Something shifts. A flicker, a divine nudge, a random opportunity that doesn't make sense. It's the first crack of dawn after a long night. The signal that your waiting wasn't wasted, so hold on. Don't quit before the blooming. You don't realize it, but you're standing inches away from manifestation. The moment you almost give up is often the precise second heaven finishes aligning the last piece. And soon, very soon, the silence will break. But when it does, it won't just reveal what you've been waiting for. It will reveal who you've become. Because what emerges from the cocoon doesn't crawl, it flies. But before the wings unfold, one final trial awaits. The most delicate, the most dangerous, the one that decides whether you will handle your divine power with humility or lose yourself in it. Trial 5, the weight of power. And then, the silence ends. The light returns. Doors that once refused to open now swing wide. The world that ignored you suddenly listens. Your words begin to carry weight, not because you changed your tone, but because heaven amplified your voice. People lean in when you speak. Energy shifts when you walk into a room. You start to feel it. The power that was always inside you, now fully awakened. But with it comes the final trial, the weight of power. This is not a test of strength, it's a test of purity. Heaven gave you influence not to glorify you, but to reveal itself through you. Yet this is the moment when many chosen ones stumble, not because they are weak, but because success feels safer than surrender. After years of rejection, finally being seen feels intoxicating. After seasons of loneliness, admiration feels like medicine. But if you're not careful, that medicine becomes poison. The same ego that once screamed, "I'm nothing," begins to whisper, "I am everything." And that whisper is how empires fall. You see, the divine doesn't just test your pain, it tests your power. It watches what you do when the spotlight turns your way. Will you use your voice to heal, or to be heard? Will you shine your light to guide others, or to be admired for your glow? The higher you rise, the softer the voice of temptation becomes. Seductive, reasonable, almost spiritual. It says, "You've earned this. You suffered for this. You deserve to enjoy your light." But light that exists only to be seen eventually burns itself out. True power does not demand attention. It creates transformation. Real authority is silent. It doesn't need to shout to be felt. It moves through presence, through compassion, through integrity. You begin to understand that being chosen was never about being above. It was about carrying the below, the broken, the forgotten. Power in divine hands heals. Power in human hands corrupts. And this trial reveals which one you hold. This is where you'll be tempted to forget the fire that formed you. You'll start to speak as if you were the source instead of the vessel. You'll feel people looking up to you, and part of you will like it. Because after being invisible for so long, it feels good to be seen. But be careful. The applause that once motivated you can now manipulate you. The love that once fueled you can now seduce you. That's how ego sneaks in, dressed as destiny. The true chosen never stop questioning themselves. They measure every word, every decision, through the lens of humility. They remember the nights they begged for answers, the moments they doubted their worth, the times they felt unseen. Because forgetting the pain that purified you is how the heart hardens. And when the heart hardens, power becomes performance instead of purpose. You'll notice the shift. The air around you feels heavier. You start to sense responsibility woven into every blessing. You realize that every gift carries weight. Every revelation demands restraint. You're no longer free to act from impulse. You represent something larger than yourself now. And that realization humbles you. It brings you back to your knees, the same place where your journey began. Because the strongest warriors are not those who command the crowd. They are those who kneel before the light that created them. So how do you pass this final test? You remember why you were chosen. You weren't chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you were willing to break, to change, to serve. Every miracle you manifest now must serve the collective. Every word you speak must lift, not impress. You must remind yourself daily, I am a vessel, not the source. That's how you protect the power from consuming you. And yes, the ego will keep whispering. It will say, you deserve this recognition. You've paid your dues. But the awakened soul answers, I was chosen to serve. That simple phrase disarms the darkness within. Because service is the antidote to corruption. The moment you forget service, you become the very force you were chosen to fight. So carry your light wisely. Let it be warmth, not wildfire. Let it illuminate, not blind. The world needs your radiance, but heaven needs your reverence. The crown you wear is invisible, not to hide it, but to remind you it was never yours to keep. You've passed through the fire, the silence, the tears, and the waiting. Now you stand holding power, not as a weapon, but as a torch. The kind that doesn't just shine, it ignites others. But this is not the end, chosen one. The trials were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to reveal you. And what's coming next will not only prove who you are, it will show the world why you were chosen in the first place. Now you understand. Nothing was wasted. Every tear, every silence, every heartbreak was sacred training. The nights that broke you were the same nights heaven was carving strength into your bones. You were never being punished. You were being promoted. The collapse was your initiation. The silence was your classroom. The loneliness was your purification. And the waiting was the womb of your rebirth. The fire didn't destroy you. It revealed you. Every scar became scripture. Every delay became design. You were being stripped of everything that wasn't truly you, so that when the light returned, you would no longer shine for attention. You would glow with purpose. Look at you now. You survived what others couldn't. You kept walking when logic said stop. You stood firm when your soul was shaking. You didn't just endure the storm. You became the calm inside it. That's the mark of the chosen. They don't escape the fire. They learn to speak from within it. If you are hearing this right now, it means your soul recognizes